Welcome back to BioTresure. Now we are going to complete the second chapter, that is Basic Physiology for icmr BRET. So in this we will first complete everything will be completed in a single video. So below is a comparative overview of basic physiology organized by the system. First is the digestive system and nutrition. The process of digestion involves taking in the food and breaking it down into absorbable micromolecule. Then there is a alimentary canal, a continuous muscular tract consisting of the mouth, the buccal cavity, the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, duodenum, jejunum and ileum, and a large intestine, that is caecum, colon and rectum and anus. Then digestive gland like salivary gland, there are three pairs, that is the names of the pairs are important: parotid, submaxillary, sublingual. They secrete the saliva containing the salivary amylase to begin the starch digestion. Then liver, the largest gland, it secretes the bile which is stored in the gallbladder, which emulsifies the fat. Then pancreas, it secretes the pancreatic juice that contain an enzyme like trypsinogen, lipase and enzyme amylase, as well as hormones like insulin and glucagon. Then caloric value, this is one is important: the energy that is obtained from the carbohydrate like 4 kilocalorie per gram, and protein, that is 4 kilocalorie per gram, and fat, that is 9 kilocalorie per gram. So the icmr recommend a daily protein intake of 1 gram per 1 kg of body weight for an average Indian. Then respiratory system, what is it? It is exchange of O2 and CO2 between the environment and the body cell to release energy for nutrition. Then mechanism of breathing, how it the mechanism of breathing, we all know that breathing is derived by pressure gradient, which is created by the diaphragm and intercostal muscle. Inspiration is an inactive process where the thoracic volume increases. Thoracic volume increases, lowering the pressure to draw air in, and expiration is generally passive as the muscle relax. Then gas exchange, this occur in alveoli, which are thin-walled, highly vascular air sac. Then transport of gases by oxygen, that is 97%, that is transported bound to the hemoglobin as oxyhemoglobin. Then carbon dioxide mostly transported as an bicarbonate ion, 70% of with smaller amount bound to hemoglobin, and 20 to 25 for 2 hemoglobin and dissolve in the plasma, that is 7 to 10%. Then regulation, breathing is primarily controlled by the respiratory rhythm center in the medulla oblongata. Then important points on body fluid and circulation. The circulatory system uses blood and lymph to transport the nutrients, gas and waste. Then blood composition, blood consists of plasma, that is 55%, and form the element 45%, include the RBC, that is erythrocyte, WBCs, that is the leukocyte, and platelets, that is the thrombocyte. The heart, the human heart is myogenic, meaning its rhythmic contraction is initiated by specialized cardiac muscle called the SA node and pacemaker. Then cardiac cycle last up to 0.8 seconds and include the phase of systole contraction and diastole relaxation. Double circulation, human have a complete double circulation system consisting of the pulmonary circulation, heart to lung, and systemic circulation, heart to rest of the body. The excretory system, it is the process of removing the nitrogenous waste such as amino, urea and uric acid, which maintain the water and ionic balance. The nephron, it is a structure of the functional unit of the kidney. It consists of the renal, corpuscle, Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. The renal corpuscle, which consists of the Bowman capsule and glomerulus, and renal tubule. Then urine formation involves 3 steps. The glomerular filtration, a passive process where the blood is filtered under pressure. Tubular reabsorption, where reclaiming water and solute like glucose and amino acid back into the blood. Then tubular secretion, moving the substance like hydrogen and potassium into the filtrate. Then hormone regulation, the kidney are regulated by ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, that facilitate the water reabsorption, and the RAS, that is renin angiotensin aldosterone system. which respond to fall in the blood pressure or volume. The basic human physiology is concerned with the cell, tissue and organ system. They work together and they through various chemical and physical processes. They support the function of life. The study of physiology primarily revolve around the body's tendency for maintaining the homeostasis. What is homeostasis? The ability of the body to maintain the state of stable internal environment and ensure the survival. So the muscular system enable movement by contraction of three type of muscular tissue. They are skeletal, smooth and cardiac muscle. So let's know one by one. First we are knowing the muscular system. Muscular tissue is a specialized form of tissue. It has an ability to contract and enable the movement. The three type of skeletal, cardiac and smooth, and each has an unique structure and function, and they share a common property like contractility, conductivity, extensibility and elasticity. These share characterize allowing the muscle cell to effectively respond to the stimulus that conduct the impulses, stretching and returning to the original form. The skeletal muscle is the most prevalent type of muscle found in the human body. It is important and essential for voluntary movement and position. It consists of elongated multinuclear muscle fiber that contain subunit like the microfibril, and these microfibril are composed of two proteins, namely the actin and myosin, and they are responsible for this muscle contraction. They have some unique electrical property. They are important for muscle activation and by action potential. There is a neuromuscular junction that serve a connection point where the nerve impulse they trigger the muscular contraction and the process of skeletal muscle contraction and relaxation. It is mediated by the calcium ion and regulatory protein which rely on the ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, and glycogen which is present inside the muscle. Within the muscle there is a skeletal muscle fiber. They are different type like slow twitch and fast twitch, and they have some specific activity. The smooth and cardiac muscle. The smooth muscle, it is primarily the location is in the internal organ and body passageway. It is involved in the involuntary function like the controlling the blood vessel diameter and facilitating the digestion. So smooth muscle, it have a uninucleated spindle shaped cell which is present with the dense bodies. It differs from skeletal and cardiac muscle, and the structure and slower is the sustained contraction. Now cardiac muscle, as the name suggests, it is found in the heart. It is a specialized form of continuous rhythmic contraction without any nervous stimulation, pumping the blood throughout the body. So cardiac muscle cell, they are strained and interconnected by intercalary disc. There is a disc present, and this disc they contain a gap junction for the passing of the electric impulse that are transmitted, and desmosome which ensure that the connection is very strong. And there are unique structure which synchronize the heart contraction, and they are essential for effective blood circulation. Now let's know about the nervous system. It is a complex network of nervous cells, the neurons. They are responsible for controlling and coordinating various functions in the body, and it is classified mainly into the CNS, that is central nervous system, and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system, it is made up of composed of brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, it is composed of the neural element outside the central nervous system. So the nervous system consists of the primary cell, that are the neuron and glia. So the neuron, they are form basic function unit of the nervous system. They are responsible for transmitting and processing information and passing the electric and chemical impulses. And there are glial cells. On the other hand, they provide protection, nutrition to the neuron, and they are important for maintaining the overall health and efficiency of the nervous system. Now, what is an action potential and synapse? Action potential, it is important in neural communication. It shifts the changes in the neural membrane charges and it helps in the signal transmission. So the neuronal synapses, where the neuron connect the action potential, it trigger and release the neurotransmitter. It facilitates the signals and transfer between the neurons. Neurotransmission, they are the key in regulating, conveying the neural messages between two nerves, and they target a particular tissue through this nervous system. There are general senses of human body. They are of range of sensation like temperature, pain, touch, stretch, pressure and vibration. These stimulus they detect by a specialized sensory receptor. They are distributed throughout the body, and these receptors they monitor and detect the stimuli from both the external and internal environment. Like the touch, stretch, pressure and vibration sensation, they are categorized into somatic senses and mechanoreceptive somatic senses, while the pain and temperature sensation they are categorized by thermoreceptive and coreceptive. Then what are the special senses like olfactory for smell, gustation for the taste, vision, hearing? They are essential for interaction with the environment. Like for by smelling something, we can detect the airborne chemical, the odors by the olfactory receptor. We can get a taste mediated by the taste bud, which out gustatory receptor for different flavors like sweet, salty. We can know the various flavors by taste. Then vision, the processing of light, color and movement via the photoreceptor. They are present where? In the retina of the eyes. They form a visual image of the object in the environment. And by the ear we can hear, interpret the sound waves by the spiral organ. While vestibular sensations, they are present in the inner ear. They are detected by the macula and crest, ampullaries. Their specialized structure. They are important for the balance and spatial orientation. So these senses they enrich our experiences and perception of our environment. What is a motor control? Movement and coordination involve complex interaction with the nervous system. So the spinal cord play a important role in the process of receiving and passing on the information from the brain to the muscle by the motor neuron, but also through reflex action arc. There is a reflex arc. Simple pathway that mediated the reflex action. They allow the rapid and involuntary response without any stimulus direction involved of the brain. Beyond this basic mechanism, the motor control is regulating by the higher center in the brain, particularly the cerebral cortex and the brainstem. This cortex it is responsible for the voluntary motor action, planning and coordination, with the brainstem integrated the relay motor command between the brain and the spinal cord. Together, this system makes the smooth and well coordination movement. Now there is a cerebral cortex. It is important in higher cognitive function and it is fundamental to processing and integrating sensory information for higher order thinking, reasoning, problem solving. So functionally, it is characterized by the complex arrangement of the neuron. There are layers, lobes and areas. They perform specific role. Cognition and language function, they are predominantly managed by specific cortical areas such as the Broca and Wernicke's area that develop, that's why we can develop abstract thinking, understanding and communication, learning and memory. They are also centered in the cortex where the experience are encoded, storage and important for knowledge recalling and gaining. Additionally, there is a cerebral cortex that are involved in the regulation of sleeping and wakefulness and balancing the brain activity, overall cognitive health and function. Now, the cardiovascular system. We all know that the blood is an important fluid in the human body that maintain the dynamic function. It is composed of the plasma, form an element cellular component. They are produced in the bone marrow through the process of hematopoiesis. These elements, we call it as, there are elements like erythrocyte, RBC, WBCs, etc. Their RBCs are responsible for oxygen transport to the tissue and via the hemoglobin, and WBCs are involved in the immune response and platelets. They are the important for clotting and wound healing. Now, what is in heart? It is a central component of the cardiovascular system. The primary function of the muscular organ is to pump the blood throughout the body. And what does it do? It delivers the oxygen and nutrition to the tissue. It is composed of specialized cardiac muscle tissue. It has some unique electrical property that allow for the automatic and coordinated contraction. With each complete heartbeat, the heart goes through the sequence of filling and pumping the phase. It is called as cardiac cycle. It ensures continuous blood flow. Cardiac output is the volume of the blood of the heart, that the heart per minute how much the blood is pumped. So it measures the cardiac function, and it is regulated by both intrinsic cardiac mechanism and extrinsic external factor like hormone and neural factors. Then what are blood vessels? They are the vascular channel. They transport the blood throughout the body and integral component of the circulatory system. The three type of blood vessel are artery, vein and capillary, and each varying in structure and function. Artery carry the oxygenated blood away from the heart. Veins return the deoxygenated blood to the heart, and capillary, they helps in exchange of the oxygen, nutrition and waste product between the blood and the tissue by process like diffusion, filtration and osmosis. So the blood flow within the vessel in a tightly regulated to maintain the adequate tissue and blood pressure. Now the circulatory system, they consist of pulmonary circuits and systemic circuit. So the pulmonary circuit that move the blood from the right ventricle through the lungs and back to the left atrium, as well as systemic circuit, which include a network of arteries and veins that transport the blood from the aorta to all the other organ system, tissues of the body and back to the heart. The lymphatic and immune system, they are the key component of the body defense mechanism. The lymphatic system, it comprises of a network of lymph vessel, node and tissue. They involve in maintaining the fluid balance and filtering out the harmful pathogen. It transports the lymph fluid containing WBCs throughout the body. There are lymphatic vesicles. They collect and transport the lymph from the tissue to the venous circulation, lymphoid organ like spleen, thymus and tonsil. They are involved in immune surveillance or foreign antigen and removal of the old and damaged blood cell. Immune system have a complex network of cell, tissues and organ. They work together for defending the body against any pathogen like bacteria, virus and foreign body. So this system helps the body to identify its own cell and foreign cells and substance which must be eliminated because these are not required. The WBCs, antibodies and other substances, they identify and attack the foreign invader. What is immunity? The ability of a body complex to fight against the pathogen and foreign substance. It can be innate, that is first line of defense, which is inborn, means from the birth we have it, and adaptive, which we gain by some cellular responses like T lymphocyte or humoral responses by B lymphocyte. Adapt immunity has an ability to learn. Therefore, it responds more effectively to specific pathogen after we are getting exposed to it, and it leads to the strong and quick reaction to that substance which is attacking us. Adaptive immunity. Now, what is an endocrine system? which is responsible for regulation of various physiological processes like growth, metabolism, reproduction, stress response through the secretion of chemical messages like hormones. They are diverse chemicals, like they ranging from the steroid to peptide. They are released directly from the bloodstream and they travel to the target organ, to the tissue, where they bind to a specific receptor. They target the cellular response and regulate the body function. Endocrine system have endocrine glands and organs, and each produce hormone that are important for various body function. Pituitary gland. It is known as master gland. It works for the conjugation with hypothalamus to control several other endocrine glands. There is the thyroid and parathyroid gland that regulate the metabolism, calcium and phosphorus levels in the body. Suprarenal adrenal gland. They include cortisol, adrenaline that manage the stress response and metabolic process. Endocrine pancreas. The endocrine pancreas, it plays an important role in the glucose metabolism, and by secretion of the hormone it is regulated, like insulin and glucagon. These are the hormones that secrete and regulate the glucose metabolism. There are gonads like ovary and testes in male and female respectively, and a placenta in females during pregnancy that produce a hormone that promote the reproductive health of the fetal development. Now, respiratory system, it is responsible for breathing and gas exchange, and it is organized into conducting portion that transport the air and the respiratory portion, and it is responsible for the gases to be exchanged. It begins with the nasal cavity and mouth, and it leads to the pharynx, larynx and trachea, and then it bifurcates into the bronchi and bronchioles within the lungs, forming the conducting portion. The lung house respiratory bronchioles, alveoli duct and the alveola, the tiny air sac which form the respiratory portion of the system, and here the oxygen is exchanged for carbon dioxide during respiration. It also facilitates the intake of the oxygen and carbohydrate, and the respiratory system also play an important role in the regulating the blood pH and maintaining the acid balance. And breathing. What is breathing? We know that inhalation and exhalation, inspiration and expiration, where we inhale the air and exhale the air. So the management of respiratory gas, they are important in human physiology. It ensures that body cell receive amount of oxygen that we need for our metabolic process to be done, and while removing the CO2. This is the process of breathing, which involve two cycle phase. First is inhaling, where we inhale the oxygen rich air drawn into the lung, and exhalation, where the carbon dioxide rich air is expelled. So the entire process of breathing and gaseous exchange is regulated by brainstem respiratory center, which adjusts the rate and the depth of the breathing based on the body's need, and monitored by the central and peripheral chemoreceptor that detect the changes in the blood level of oxygen, carbon dioxide and pH. Organ of the digestive system. The digestive system is responsible for breaking down of the food, and that body can absorb and utilize the food. So the two main group of organ for digestive organs are accessory and digestive organ. Digestive organ include the various part of the gastrointestinal tract. It begins with the mouth, where the mechanical digestion is done by chewing the food. Chemically digestion through the saliva occurs, followed by the food will be transferred to the pharynx, then esophagus, and finally to the stomach. And the stomach will break it down. The food will be break down by the stomach using acid and enzyme and into a paste like chyme, and then it will be moving to the small intestine and primary site for the chemical digestion and nutrition absorption, and then following the large intestine, absorbing water and electrolytic, forming a feces. So accessory organ of digestive system include salivary gland, liver, pancreas and gallbladder. The salivary gland produce saliva that contain an enzyme which initiate the chemical digestion of the sugars. So the liver, it produce a bile juice for fat digestion, and pancreas, it supply the digestive enzyme. The gallbladder store the bile, and together all of this component They involve in digestive system, ensure an effective breakdown of food into essential nutrition. Now, what is metabolism and nutrition? It involves in converting the energy in food and fuel for the body's processes through various biochemical reactions. The two main metabolic pathways are catabolic and anabolic. What is catabolic pathway? Breaking down the molecule to release the energy, while anabolic pathway to use energy to build a complex molecule. Then what is carbohydrate metabolism? It focus on sugar and breaking down sugar into glucose. And the primary energy source is processed through glycolysis, Krebs cycle and ETS to produce the ATP. That is electron transport chain to produce ATP, and the body energy is generated. Then lipid metabolism, it breaks the and synthesizes the fat, and it is important in energy storage and maintaining the cell structure. When our body have low carbohydrate availability, then the liver will produce ketone bodies and form a fatty acid by a process known as the ketogenesis, and it is an alternative source of the body. There is lipogenesis that occurs in the liver and adipose tissue, that is the converting precursor such as carbohydrate into fat for effective energy storage. And protein metabolism, it breaks down the protein into amino acid for energy production or the synthesis of new protein. So excess amino acid, it undergo deamination by the urea cycle. What does it result into? The conversion of amino acid into the urea and for safe excretion by the kidney. And if there is insufficient amount of carbohydrate and fat, the protein can be metabolically converted into energy. Now, urinary system, it maintains the water and electrolyte balance and remove the waste product from the body through urine. So the four main organ it have is kidney, uterus, urinary bladder and urethra. There is a bean-shaped kidney located in the abdominal cavity, and they are central to the system. There are numerous nephrons, which are functional unit responsible for filtering of the blood and production of the urine. The ureter carry urine from the kidney to urinary bladder, which store the before the expelling from the body through the urethra. Urine itself has a distinct physical character. It have its color, odor, pH and specific gravity. It can provide an insight of various metabolic process and health of the urinary system. Then renal physiology. The renal physiology is a study of the kidney function and how the urine is formed, the process we can know through this physiology. And elimination of the urine. Central to this is glomerular filter, where the blood plasma is filtered through the glomeruli of the kidney that initiate the urine formation, which is followed by filtration, tubular reabsorption. This process is needs some substance like glucose, iron and water. They are reabsorbed and filter back into the bloodstream, ensuring the conservation of the vital nutrition and maintaining the fluid balance. The kidney is important in regulating of the urine concentration and volume, and this process is controlled by a hormone like ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone, which determine the amount of water reabsorbed and the final concentration of urine. The fluid, electrolyte and acid balance. The body fluid. The fluid within the human body are distributed across two main components. The intracellular fluid containing which cell within the cell, and extracellular fluid which include interstitial fluid, blood plasma and other specialized fluid. Water balance is a key aspect in body fluid regulation, and it controls the water intake and loss to maintain the body fluid equilibrium. This balance is very important, and it ensures that the cell and the organ have appropriate environment for carrying out the metabolic process and regulating the temperature of the body, and important in transport of the nutrition and waste product. Thanks for watching. Do like, share and subscribe.